kids, welcome to Sunday school. I'm so glad you all made it out today. Today is a beautiful day and we're going to talk about one of my favorite Bible stories, Elijah and the prophets of Baal. Now this story is one of the most amazing stories and I'll tell you why. Elijah shows a tremendous amount of faith. And he shows us that no matter how few we are, that God still answers prayers. And he still is there. And so the story of Elijah starts out, well, Ahab and Jezebel, they're very wicked people. Like very wicked. And Elijah, he gets tired of it. So he goes and he tells Ahab, he says, okay, because of your wickedness, there will be no more rain upon the earth. And so that when he leaves, there's a big drought that takes over the land. There's no water to grow anything, so the food is running low. And you would think that because of that, Jezebel and Ahab and the people of Israel would say, okay, God really is real and he really does want us to turn back. But that's not what they do. Instead, they keep serving this idol called Baal. And they keep rejecting God, and Jezebel is killing the prophets of God, and they keep doing wickedness in the sight of God. And so Elijah returns and he says, Ahab, Jezebel, he said, are you guys going to return to God again? And you would think, like I said, that they would do it, but no, they didn't. And instead of Ahab being sorry for what he's doing and turning back to God, he starts blaming Elijah and saying, this is all your fault. You cursed us. And Elijah's like, no. He's like, this is the punishment because of what you've done and the sin and the wickedness you've committed. And so Elijah is telling Ahab this, but Ahab is not listening. And so Elijah starts saying, well, you know what? You think Baal is God, and I think my God is the true God, so we're going to have it out. We're going to go up on the mountain, and we're going to see which God is real. And so the next morning, Baal is dragged up on a cart with servants behind, and Ahab is coming up the mountain too. And Elijah comes up, but nobody is behind Elijah. He is the only prophet left of God. Meanwhile, Ahab is serving Baal, and there's over thousands of prophets of Baal there that day. So Elijah says, you go first. There's many of you. And so they prepare the sacrifice and they get everything ready, and the only thing missing from that sacrifice is the fire. And so Elijah's agreement was, if there's fire that comes down from heaven, then that means that that God is the true God. So Elijah is sitting there and he's watching them, and all the servants of Baal gather around the idol and gather around the sacrifice, and they're screaming and they're jumping and they're dancing and they're trying to get Baal's attention. Meanwhile, Elijah's over here in the corner, and he's just laughing at him. He's saying, your God's sleeping. Maybe he's sleeping, maybe he's off on vacation. Maybe he's busy doing something and don't have time for you. Because all the while, Elijah is not intimidated by all this screaming, because he knows at the end that that God is not going to answer them. And that's the kind of faith you boys and girls need to have. That no matter what the kids say, no matter how people treat you, that you're not going to get intimidated and think that God is not going to answer, or that their God is going to answer. Because you know what? If you have the faith in God, you will never be intimidated by the ones that come against you and say he's not real. And so Elijah is over there, and he's he's laughing at them for doing the things they're doing because they're screaming and they're breaking their vocal cords because they're trying to scream and trying to get this God's attention. Meanwhile, this God is just standing there. And after a while, they start to get depressed. And they start to think, wow, maybe this isn't going to work, And so it would be like me telling everyone in this room to have a volunteer here to go over here and talk to this wall. Just talk to it for 3 hours and expect it to talk back to you. After a while, I don't think any of you in this room would raise your hand and say, I'll do that for 3 hours because I believe that wall will talk back. I don't think anyone's going to do that. So after a while, these people that are running around and praying to this false god, they get tired. They get depressed and they get worn out and they're just like, okay, I'm done. And so it's Elijah's turn. Elijah comes up and instead of just putting the sacrifice on the altar, he pours water on it. How many of you know that when you pour water on something, it's very hard for it to burn? But Elijah did it. And you can probably hear him over there in the corner just laughing and saying, why are you pouring water on that? That's not going to burn now. But Elijah never listened to the mockery. And I want to encourage you tonight, don't listen to the mockery. Don't listen to that. Because God really will hear your prayer. And so Elijah comes up and he starts, what do you think he starts doing? Do you think he starts yelling? Do you think he starts dancing all around? No. He just says a simple prayer. And you want to know what happened? God sent fire from the sky and it burnt not just the sacrifice, but around the sacrifice. And so I'm just letting you know that no matter how small the group was for Elijah, he was the only one left. And there was tons of people on Baal's side. But he still followed God and he still stood up for God. This is just an idol. If I came up to you and I said this was real, and I said this heard me, and this saw me, and this was going to help me through my problems, most of you would look at me and think I'm crazy. But that's what they did. And maybe you got some idols in your life. And no, I don't mean that you're worshiping a golden god or a stone god or a wood god. I mean, maybe there's something in your life that you like to do more than praying, more than reading your Bible. There's nothing wrong with playing. There's nothing wrong with playing with your friends and going to the mall and going out and looking at cars or playing video games or just, having fun on a bicycle. But if you put those things before God and you don't spend any time with God, then you're making that thing an idol. And I want every one of you to walk out of this class and put God first. Because God's got a plan for every one of you. And he is going to do something really meaningful with your life.